Hi, and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and with that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into today's topic. I'm drawn to games with strong social mechanics. I just love that feeling of camaraderie when I look at my party members, and I know their names, and I know what they're about, and it just feels like I built a little gang and we're doing stuff together. Look at us. Each character feels like a real person you're impacting, and your decisions bring you closer together or it pulls you further apart, and it's just such a cool feeling. Engaging with the game world through conversations with characters adds a unique texture to the whole experience. If I'm not attached to my team by the end of the game, it's done something wrong, and odds are I'm not going to finish it. So, I thought I would put together a list of my top 5, in no particular order, all-time favorite games with social simulation mechanics. Starting with number 1, Dragon Age Origins. This game, even outside of its social mechanics, is one of my favorite games of all time. It's one of the ones that I've started over again and again and again and again, and it took me so long to finish it because I didn't want the journey to be over. It's so well written, and the combat is very fun, and your party members are all so charismatic. The two main highlights of the game are the two party members you meet at the beginning of the game, Morrigan and Alistair. They each encapsulate the odd couple dynamic, where one of them is a witch and the other is a witch hunter. They don't get along, but aw shucks, at the end of the day, we find a way to make it work. You're able to chat and romance both of these characters and others, and when you're out in the field running around, they'll banter with each other. And it's really crazy how BioWare nailed this feeling of running errands with your best friends so well back in 2009. It has like a podcast sound to it. They're so fun to listen to.
Have a care where your eyes linger, Alistair.
Yes, well, don't worry. It's not what you think.
I see.
I was looking at your nose.
And what is it about my nose that captivates you so?
I was just thinking that it looks exactly like your mother's.
I hate you so much.
What?
Never mind.
And of course, the fun doesn't stop there. There's lots of other party members that you can weave in and out of your group, which will cause new group dynamics and new banter. Just a heads up, they're not all going to get along. The characters in this game are all so charming, but I feel like the following games didn't really capture the same magic as this one. As with every game I talk about in these lists, I highly recommend you check this one out. Number 2, Fire Emblem 3 Houses. This one was my first Fire Emblem game. Shortly after dipping my toe into the fanbase, I quickly learned that this game has plenty of haters due to its heavy emphasis on social mechanics. I'm planning on making a video on this later, but for my intents and purposes, that's what makes this one the best one in the series, and one of my favorite games of all time. The game places you in the boots of Byleth. The boots of Byleth. A new professor and general at Garreg Monastery. You choose a house to teach at, with each house containing its own leader and cluster of students. I picked the Golden Deer house, and as such, believe it to be the best. Each house has its own students, and by the end of this journey, you will know each of their names, hobbies, interests, and skills. The game works in 3 primary phases. You have the social side of things, where you explore the monastery and engage with the characters through various activities. The teaching side of things, where you select students to focus on and cater your lessons to boost certain stats for them, which will benefit them later in combat. And then lastly, combat, where you select a handful of your students and throw them into war with bandits, thieves, and other warring factions. All of these mechanics play directly into each other. By the time you hit your second or third battle, your war mage isn't a war mage. Lysithea. It's Lysithea. And that blue-haired kid decked out in that ridiculously heavy armor is Casper. And the girl with the giant axe is Hilda. And she hates work, and she's very lazy, and kind of annoying, but in like a charming way, kind of. I love all of these characters, and this game has a very nice mix of playing with them in these battles and engaging with them through the various cutscenes and activities. I personally recommend playing with the permadeath mechanic, in which if one of your students dies, they're dead for the rest of the game, because that really solidifies that attachment you have with them, and it makes each of your moves in this game matter a lot more. I've never memorized so many names before. I highly recommend this game if you're looking for something on the more strategic end of the spectrum. There are so many combinations of characters to work with in your army and for you to bond with. Number 3, Final Fantasy 15. I've talked about this before on my Where to Start video on Final Fantasy, but the social aspect of Final Fantasy 15 is so good. Though your party isn't interchangeable like Dragon Age or Fire Emblem, the curse is revealed to be a gift because you would never want to swap these guys out. Each of your 3 party members have their own hobbies, which impact how they talk, fight, and interact with our main character, Noctis. Gladius is this beefy musclehead who is always wanting to train. If we're comparing things to Ninja Turtles, he's a Raphael type. Very no-nonsense with a heart of gold. He hits slowly and deals mega damage with his stupidly large Final Fantasy swords. If Gladius is our Raphael, Ignis is our Donatello. He's quiet, calculating, a bit of a nerd. He's also a professional cook and your driver for this adventure. Several, and by that I mean lots of times during your adventure, he'll find an ingredient and he'll say those magic words.
That's it!
What's up, Iggy?
I've come up with a new recipe.
I could taste test for you.
That's it!
What's what?
I've come up with a new recipe.
Can't wait to try it.
Bye now!
That's it!
What's up, Iggy?
I've come up with a new recipe.
Can't wait to try it.
In camp, he'll use your ingredients that you find in the overworld to cook delicious-looking meals to give your team for stat boosts. And to balance out our team with our Michelangelo, we have Prompto. He's a bubbly jokester who is our group photographer. Having a photography mode seems to be a new standard in modern games, but I've never seen anything quite like this. Each time you stop at camp, Prompto will show you pictures that he took during the day's activities. It's so charming and cute, and I miss this so much in the new Final Fantasy. And sometimes if you're looking for it, you can actually catch Prompto taking the pictures. These guys all riff and banter off of our Leonardo, Noctis, who pulls the team together. It's very fun to hear these guys banter when they're running around, and with the side story DLCs, you get to play as each character alone as they go on their own separate journeys, and it fleshes out their characters even more, and it makes you love them even more, and it's perfect. This game really bottles the feeling of going on a road trip with your best friends so well. If you crave that experience, check this game out. Number 4, Marvel's Midnight Suns. Midnight Sun may be the best Marvel game out there. The Insomniac Spider-Man games are amazing, no pun intended, but those are Spider-Man games. This game feels like a Marvel game. Everyone is here. Captain America, Wolverine, Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man. They're all here, and they're available for you to chat and bond with. Unfortunately, there are no romanceable characters in this game, but it's still really cool to form alliances and eventually friendships with these characters. It's such a good gateway to learning more about the non-MCU characters. Though I'm not a big fan of how she's portrayed in the movies, I really meshed with Captain Marvel in this game, and it may have converted me into a fan. Magik is also super cool, and maybe one of my favorite Marvel superheroes of all time. And it was really cool to see Tony Stark outside of him being in the protagonist role. He was snarky and quippy, and I hated him. I went out of my way to be mean to him because he was so annoying. And honestly, I feel like that's how it would really be like if he were real. So good for the devs.
Well, I'm here to make progress. If you aren't, then get out of the way.
Never meet your heroes. I get it now.
This game is a strategy game along the same vein as XCOM. You assemble a team of 3 characters for missions, and you use your abilities to complete them, mostly by killing enemies and bosses. The teams you put together impact your relationships with them post-mission, which leads to more interactions between the battles, which kind of sounds like a good in-universe podcast for Marvel superheroes. Between the battles. Huh? Anyone? Okay. Outside of combat, you can perform various tasks to level up. These involve you doing them with different characters of your choice, which boosts your bond with them. Get closer with certain characters, get new perks in battle. All scenes are fully voice acted, which is really nice, and there's a nice versatility in the interactions. Some characters form crushes on each other, some form book clubs, and some get into pretty big fights. It's cool to watch it all unfold and influence where things go with them. This is a really good game for people who are wanting to get into Marvel, but don't want to watch 40 movies and read a bunch of comics to do so. It's a really good game experience. And that brings us to number 5, Persona 5. Some of you may recognize this as the game that invented jazz music in the color red, but outside of its boppin' soundtrack and its gorgeous UI, this game has really in-depth social systems that you'll spend decades deciphering. There is so much packed into this experience. It's so long by itself, but to really experience the whole thing, you'll have to play through this dozens of times. It centers around a group of thieves who perform heists inside of people's hearts. For the Persona fans rolling their eyes right now, that is the best way that I can explain what's happening here without dedicating a 3-hour chunk of time to Persona lore. The team you perform these heists with grows as you progress through the game, and you're given plenty of chances to hang out with them and get to know them more. Outside of your party members, you can also bond with people outside the gang. Getting closer with these people can grant you various stat boosts and unlock new branches in the game's story. Ooh. This game is definitely for people who not only enjoy meeting new people, they enjoy learning people. Because this game will offer you tons of opportunities to get closer and closer and closer with these characters. You can write full-fledged psych reports about these people with the amount of time you spend talking with them. And you only really get that close with 1 or 2 per playthrough. Outside of the relationship mechanics, the gameplay features standard turn-based combat, and the environments and bosses are really charismatic and fun. There are even mechanics where you get to barter and negotiate surrender with certain enemies, which is really charming. I recommend this game for people who are looking for a game that will last them a very long time. This game really is massive. And with that, that's all I got for you today. I'm super curious to hear your recommendations, so drop them in the comments down below and let me know if you tried any of these. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again next week. Bye.